Hi and welcome to CSM Mistakes Were Made. In this video I want to show especially new owners of Lamb LT150 machines how they can do a simple heel, a simple toe, and this cool selvage that's really my go-to selvage when I use my antique machine. And somebody in our LT150 community figured out a way to replicate it for the Lamb. I'll leave a link to her content. Really impressed with people who do research before they buy a sock machine, and they realize that one of the very best sock machines out there is the LT150, the Lamb LT150. They have my respect because I've gotten some experience under my belt with my old antique machine, and I was able to kind of make that experience work well for me. I wanted to show especially new LT150 owners who don't have any experience on other machines, a simple method to do a heel and a toe. So thanks for watching CSM Mistakes Were Made. Hi everyone, I wanted to make another of these socks. I'm using Baracco Socks yarn. It's going to start with a standard 1x1 cuff, which on my antique machine, I would normally start with a Juana's cast on and 2 out rows, which gets a nice rolled edge. One of the LT150 owners, she figured out how to do it on the Lamb, and I'm going to show you that today. We did a straight stockinette leg. I did a +1 deep heel that I think it's a very easy heel, and her stockinette foot, and then another standard toe. Here's my machine loaded with waste yarn, and then you can't really see it, but I've got 1 row of ravel cord installed, beginning and ending on what's called the green needle. And the needle, of course, isn't green at all, but the 2 fins on either side are green, just as the blue needle isn't blue at all. There are 2 fins marking it. In this case, it's an empty slot because I've got every other needle removed from the cylinder. This is an 84 slot cylinder, and I have a 42 slot ribber that's going to be needed when we do the 1x1 cuff. So I've got my yarn hanging down. I'm going to start with my winged yarn guide. I like using it better because it moves out of the way so nicely. There's a caveat though. When you start with the winged yarn guide, you quickly have to move to the tall yarn guide, which is the yarn guide you need, of course, when you do ribbing. If you were inclined to want to do this cool rolled edge, here's how to do it. This was developed by Knitpickin. She is a very experienced Canadian cranker, and she has an engineering background, among many other things. She's really top-notch, and she has a great mind for this. And she developed this as an adaptation for an in-out-in. That in-out-in selvage is my go-to selvage on my Legare. I've got a little tail, about 4 inches. This is in the cylinder mode, which means, of course, the cylinder is rotating. So here's 1, here's 2, and what I want 3 strands on all of these needles here. Stop forward progress when the green needle is here at this spring rest. I'll put the spring rest on, and now I need to bring my ribber cone in, align it with the green needle, and I've lined up the green dot from the factory with the green fins from the factory, and I'm going to start adding ribber needles in the open slots. Now this is where Knitpickin's method comes in. You pull an adjacent needle way out, grab the lowest of the 3 strands. Here's 3 strands. Let me show you what I got here. I've got a blue, that was the most recent one, another blue, the next most recent one, and the very first one that I knit in was kind of a light blue, kind of off-white strand. I need to grab that one and leave these where they are. Now, as I mentioned, the winged yarn guide is a great yarn guide, but it's not useful for ribbing. It won't feed the yarn into the ribber needles. So I'm going to have to keep my eye on it. So I'm grabbing that very deep thread, running thread. I'm letting 2 threads that are superficial to that just stay put. And those are equivalent to the out rows on my Legare. So I'll put these in, and I'm getting kind of close, so I guess it's probably time to accept the reality that it is time to load this guy, just because we don't want to expose our rubber needles to yarn that isn't coming from this one. So I got to do a couple things. I take the slack, I kind of make sure that these needles look like they're gonna knit, and crank forward to work on all of these needles. There's a lot of them, 42 in fact. This one can be kind of wonky because it's right at the transition, but I found it. Or return the spring to the cylinder. Let's wake up our counter, and I need to do 20 rows. "17, kind of pay attention. I'm going to get 19, and then one more way around. And when the green needle comes around to the 6 o'clock position, we'll start swapping cylinder needles for stockinette. So this takes a while to do, but I think we finished. Get this returned. Get that out of the way. Got to go 70 rows. So 68, 69, 70, and now I'm watching the green needle as it approaches the 3 o'clock position, and I'll be switching from cylinder mode to clamshell mode. I've got everything set. I'm gonna watch, in this case now, the green needle's done its job for me in terms of orientation. I know that I'll be ending up with it sort of over here, but now I kind of watch the blue needle, and I grab from underneath and kind of find that little pin, and it clunks in place beautifully. I find the other one in front, clunks in place, and now we're in neutral. That I have to crank in a kind of a backwards direction, and I have to push down on the plunger. The next move is preliminary to starting a heel. So I've done that. I think I can safely go a little distance, of course. In this clamshell mode where everything circles around, this is not a very good, it's a great yarn guide, but it's not good for clamshell mode. I need to put everything kind of back into this winged yarn guide so that we can start our heel. It's a lot to do. When we got our 70 rows, we paid attention to the green needle, and then we looked for the blue needle up here. We cranked until the blue needle came over here, and that's when we pressed our pins up. Both pins went up, and we pressed the plunger down. Then we moved in an uncomfortable direction, which is all kind of saying backwards. The knitting backwards sounds terrible, but that's really what we're doing. A couple other things we need to do to prepare to do a heel. I'm going to lift needles out of work in the rear half of the cylinder because we don't want these to knit. We're going to raise them, and then I'll refine what I'm saying in just a minute after I'm done with this, because this is a really good serviceable heel for people to think about doing. If you haven't fallen in love with any particular heel, you might want to do this one. I love it. It's my go-to heel. We have all these needles out of work, all of these needles in work, which is to say that we've got the green needle and the blue needles in work, which they should be, but we've also put 2 more needles into work, or kept 2 needles into work. So we've got slightly more than half the needles in work. On a 84 slot cylinder, if we just used all of the needles from the green needle and to the blue needle and back, that would be 42 needles. But we're keeping 43, 44, we're keeping 44 needles in work. We've got our winged yarn guide ready to go, nice and loaded, but we also have to remember to put the heel spring on. And when you put the heel spring on, you also want to tighten the tension. There's a little knob up here that you tighten the tension. All of this can do its job when you're switching directions back and forth. We're all set. We're at about 6 o'clock. We've just put it into camshell mode. The yarn is safely in the winged yarn guide, proper tension, the right number of needles are down. Now let's crank up to 12 o'clock. That's our first maneuver. We've basically finished this row. Now we're going to start our heel. The yarn is on the left side. The first needle we lift, that's our first decrease, is also on the left side. It's on the yarn side, and that's how I do my heels. I make all my needle manipulation up and down on the side of the yarn. So after we lift that first needle, we crank around. Then we do the same thing on the right, by the way. There's really no danger of stitches dropping off yet, but as we do the second one on the left and the second one on the right, you'll start to see that there's slack gradually developing in this heel pocket. Kind of just keep our eyes peeled. This should be third needle on the right. Now we'll do the fourth needle on the left and the fourth needle on the right. Whatever we do on the left, we do on the right. Now is a good time to start thinking about avoiding drop stitches by putting V-forks in. Because this has a lot of stitches, it's an 84 slot cylinder, I'm going to go ahead and use 2 V-hooks. Although I never used it on my antique machine, I never used this little V-hook on that machine. It works pretty slick on the Lamb. Now that was a kind of a built-in interruption. Figure out where we were. Here's the yarn on the left side, and it's attached to a needle that is down. So I'm going to lift that. And this one. This is the last single pass on the right for decreases. Now I'm going to do first of 2 increases, but I double up these needles. And I'll do the same thing over here. I take that needle and I raise them together for a rounded heel. We are all decreased. Now we need to do our increases. So we kind of reverse things. We're still starting everything on the left side. We're putting these 2 needles down. Now, I think you can be more sure of not dropping stitches when you have a doubled situation like this by just wrapping the yarn behind those 2 needles that are kind of in the half knit position, because they're going to now do an increase. But I've been lucky. Let's see if I'll still say that. By leaving the yarn in front versus taking it and flipping it over, I'll just leave it in front and then just kind of watch as the mechanism grabs that latch, closes on the yarn, and flips it to the back. So it did the same thing. It's a little easier not to flip the yarn over the back. So now we are well on our way to getting all of the increases done. Have the yarn hooked to a needle that's half knit in the half knit position, which means not smushed all the way down. It turns out, if I can, if you smush the needle down on my old machine like this and make it so the latch is way out in front, you're gonna drop the stitch. But if you do that on a lamb, it doesn't drop. There's an extra movement in the cam. I think I'm going to try to understand from some of the crankers in our midst, or maybe Amy herself can help me understand what it is about this wonderful machine that they engineered it so that it's less likely to drop a stitch off of a needle that you push down all the way. If I did that on my old machine, there would be a dropped stitch. Drop that down. Drop that down. Now we're getting to where we're going to make another transition. This is really an easy heel, and I do the toe very similar. So I'm approaching the blue needle over here and the green needle over here, but not quite yet. Now I am at the blue needle. I'm going to drop that blue needle and crank. I'm going to drop the green needle, but I'm not going to crank. I have just increased up to and not including those ones that I left in work. So that's the best thing to avoid a hole at the heel. When you stop short of the last needle, don't include it in your increases. You get a really nice looking transition, no hole. We are preparing to do our last increase, which is the green needle over here. We have put it down where it belongs. I'm kind of in the habit of ensuring that in all of the other stuff I got to remember to do, that actually knits. The best way to ensure it is put that yarn behind the needle, and it's going to knit. I'm prepared to crank back, but remember that there's lots to do. We will take the yarn off the heel spring and snug that slack up a little bit. We need to next really pay attention to the plunger, which is way over here, as we crank in the uncomfortable direction. But I almost missed my opportunity. That comes up so fast. So I need to lift this up, and now it's in neutral. And keep my eyes on that needle that I wrapped, which is the last increase. I've got to pull down some pins. They're pulled down, and with any luck, I will be able to crank forward in the cylinder mode. And now we're in the newly restored cylinder mode. I need to lower these. All of these needles need to be lowered because they got to be put back into work. Kind of check the latches. So I've reset my counter. I finished my heel. I've got the winged yarn guide, which I'm perfectly happy using in this setting. I don't have any ribbing that we need, so that is good. I will be cranking 80 rows for the foot. So we're coming up on 80, 78, 79, we'll go around one more time, 80. So now that I'm at 80, I'm going to watch this blue needle and do the same maneuver we did before, which is to go from cylinder mode to camshell mode. That involves watching where this kind of ends up, and then predictably right about there, I put my two needles up into the cylinder, and then I simultaneously drop this while cranking in the uncomfortable direction. And then I prepare myself for the toe. So for the toe, it's very similar to the heel. There are two main differences, but let me get these kind of situated and then I will show. Okay, so we've lifted the needles, and let me describe the exact needles I have lifted for this toe. I have lifted all the needles north of the green and the blue. Said another way, I've kept the green and the blue needles in work to help with the toe. Unlike heels, as most people know, a toe must have exactly the same number of needles out of work as in work because it involves Kitchenering, grafting, and you need to be able to graft live stitches, an equal number of live stitches to these stitches over here. We are starting just a little bit differently. If we were doing a heel, I would have put these down into work, but I'm not. So I'm going to keep these out of work. I'm in camshell mode. I've got the yarn loaded into the winged yarn guide, which is necessary for going back and forth. And then I need to increase my tension a little bit. We haven't really started the toe yet. We're going to complete that. Okay, it's up at 12. Now we're going to start the decreases. First one on the left side, matching it with one on the right side. Second one on the left side, matching it on the right side. Whatever we do over on the left, we usually do on the right. There's one exception coming up at the end of this. And we keep going. Raise this needle. And we'll keep going with these decreases until we reach the target needles, and I do the same exact thing on the toe that I did on the heel. I'll lift the last two together and then put them down together. I'll show you. Crank, raise. Let's raise this one. And then this one. And now we've got it one more single on the left, one more single on the right. Okay, we're down to where the target needle is plus one, so we'll lift those two together and crank, and lift these two together and crank. And then we lower them together. And if you're a risk taker like I am today, you'll just go ahead and see if those are going to knit. They did. All right, and then the same thing over here. I lower them and then I kind of hold my breath, but they knit. Now we're doing increases. Whatever we did over on the left, we're doing on the right. First on the left. Oh, these are interesting. They were kind of perched together. Okay, so now we're gonna crank that one in and we'll keep going. Okay, we're doing increases all the way up to the other critical difference that I'll show between my heels and toes, which are almost exactly the same. The first difference I described already is raising exactly half needles instead of doing anything fancy with deep heel. You can't do a deep toe. The second thing is coming up right now. I'm doing increases all along, stopping at 12. Ordinarily, I would drop this one, crank, and then drop this one and crank. But because I want to preserve space for a row of grafting, I'm going to do the last two increases together. This one would normally be done anyway, but I'm going to include this one, and I'm in one fell swoop. I did both of those last increases together, and now we're done. We're going to cut the yarn and then crank off with some waste yarn while cranking in the uncomfortable direction still. And then I'll just put all of the needles down and crank about 10 rows or so. Okay, that ought to do it. Cut the yarn and crank off. Now everything's kind of free. We'll keep cranking this off like so. Now let's have a look. So this was the first one. I'm quite certain we didn't get a match of the pattern, but that's okay. Here is the second one we just did. So we got a nice, one is cast on with 2 out rows. Thank you, Knitpickin, for giving us that. Oh, I just love it. The heels look really good, no holes. This is the second one we just did, and the toe looks really good. It's kind of fun to see that when you first pull a sock off the machine, even though it's exactly the same number of rows, the last one you did is always kind of stretched out, so you can see that it's about 3/4 of an inch longer, and that'll retract as the yarn relaxes. I'll graft the toes and wash and block them and show you what they look like.